Listen closely. While the masses are being fed a steady diet of political theater and fluctuating gold prices, a seismic shift just occurred deep within the vaults of the Department of Justice. 3 million pages. That's the size of the Epstein archive they just unsealed. But ask yourself, why now? Why, after 7 years of tactical silence, is this Pandora's box being pried open in the dead of 2026? The public narrative says this is justice delayed. That's the lie they want you to swallow. The reality is far more cold-blooded. This isn't a moral cleansing, it's an engineered collapse. Look at the Fed's H4.1 balance sheet from this morning. Why are Tier 1 banks hemorrhaging liquidity the exact moment these files hit the wire? Why does Glassnode show a record-breaking migration of stablecoins to offshore shadow exchanges? It's because these pages don't just list Hollywood names. They contain the routing numbers for hedge funds, currently weaponizing inflation to strip your purchasing power. You're thinking it's just another political hit job. That's the reaction of someone who's already lost. I'm not here to talk about the cheap tabloid scandals. I'm here to deconstruct the Financial Blackmail Network. I'm going to show you the direct line between the Lolita Express flight manifests and the quantitative tightening policies that have been suffocating your bank account. The document they tried to shred last night, a memo between Epstein and IMF officials regarding debt for control, is the smoking gun. It's the blueprint for the Great Reset. If you turn this off, you stay a pawn. But if you stay, I'll take you to page 442, the one identifying the untouchable Wall Street titan who decides whether your ATM card even works tomorrow. The clock is ticking. Let's look at the evidence. Listen closely, because what I'm about to deconstruct isn't just a data leak. It's a forensic roadmap to a sovereign default. If you look at the monthly Treasury statement, MTAS from the last 180 days, you'll see a fiscal hemorrhage that no mainstream outlet dares to explain. Since August 2025, net interest outlays have surged by 21%, a direct result of the trust deficit exploding in the wake of the Epstein unsealing. Under 31 U.S. Code Section 3101, the debt ceiling isn't just a number, it's a legal tripwire. The moment DOJ Exhibit G14 identified primary market dealers linked to Epstein's shell entities, the dominoes began to fall. Look at the TASI data from December. We saw a 14% liquidation of Treasury holdings by foreign central banks. They weren't just selling paper, they were fleeing a crime scene. In quantitative terms, every 100 basis point rise in yields triggered by this institutional rot adds $3.05 trillion to our deficit, according to the latest CBO projections. This is the trigger mechanism. Under Section 4 of the Federal Reserve Act, banks identified in these files face a reputational solvency crisis that, legally, can bar them from the discount window. When the gatekeepers of your money lose access to liquidity because they're being blackmailed by their own past, the system doesn't just bend, it breaks. The IMF's World Economic Outlook, Chapter 3, explicitly warns that intermediary integrity is the only thing propping up our AAA rating. That integrity just went up in smoke with page 442. You aren't watching a scandal. You're watching the methodical dismantling of the American dollar's collateral. The question isn't if the system survives, it's who pushed the release button to ensure it doesn't. Listen closely, because what you're looking at isn't a travel log, it's the flight manifest of a global coup. While the press obsesses over the salacious details of the Caribbean, the real story is written in the coordinates of the Lolita Express, specifically the tail number N212JE cross-reference, the declassified logs with the Bank for International Settlements. BS liquidity heat maps. In May 2018, while the public was distracted by trade war rhetoric, Epstein's Gulfstream wasn't in the tropics, it was on the tarmac in Zurich. Within 48 hours, 3 major European sovereign funds authorized a $12 billion capital flight into the exact offshore shell entities we identified in page 442. This isn't a coincidence, it is shadow governance hiding in plain sight. Epstein wasn't a socialite, he was a courier for power hostages. Look at the October 2019 stopover in Dubai. It aligns perfectly with the clandestine renegotiation of the petrodollar recycling agreements. Why was a private citizen with no diplomatic status sitting in a high-security terminal while sovereign wealth fund allocations were being restructured? Under U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 15, the movement of these high-profile guests across borders during sensitive fiscal windows suggests they weren't passengers, they were collateral. Every flight was a tactical chess move to ensure that, when the Great Reset arrived in 2026, the architects of our financial system were already compromised, and the capital was already moved. You are staring at the blueprint of a parallel state. While you follow the laws, they follow the logs. Those stops in London and Zurich weren't for sightseeing. They were the final handshakes on a 30-year project to bankrupt the middle class through engineered debt. The Lolita Express was the shuttle bus for a global foreclosure. If you don't see the weaponization of geography here, you're not looking hard enough. The question is, who was the navigator? Listen closely, because what I'm about to deconstruct isn't just a scandal, it's the audible cracking of a world order that has reached its expiration date. If you follow the logic of the fourth turning, you know that every 80 years, society hits a crisis phase, a brutal, mandatory liquidation of the old institutions to make way for the new 2026 isn't just a year on the calendar, it's the climax of that cycle. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't merely a man. He was a strategic fuse, an intelligence asset planted decades ago, designed to detonate exactly when the global financial walls were thinnest. The DOJ isn't unsealing 3 million pages out of a sudden thirst for justice. In a fourth turning, the elite must sacrifice their own puppets to survive the winter. This is the weaponization of law at its most cynical. The island, the Lolita Express, the Black Book, it was a factory for asymmetric information. By holding compromat over global leaders, the architects of this great reset ensured that when the 2026 debt bubble burst, the people in power, the ones managing the IMF, the Fed, and BlackRock, would vote for their own digital enslavement via CBDC rather than face public execution for their private sins. You're asking, why does this matter to my bank account? It matters because you are witnessing a controlled collapse. In the 1930s, the last fourth turning, the world abandoned the gold standard. Today, we are abandoning intermediary integrity. When the rule of law is replaced by the rule of leverage, the system is no longer protecting you, it is foreclosing on you. They are burning the house down because they've already built the digital prison they want you to move into. This is blackmail diplomacy on a sovereign scale. Cui bono? Who benefits? Not the victims, and certainly not the middle class. This is the Machiavellian masterstroke using the moral rot of the old guard to justify a revolution of systemic control. They are clearing the chessboard. The 2026 reset requires the total destruction of faith in every 20th century institution so that you will beg for the security of the new world order. The trap hasn't just been set, it's already sprung. You aren't watching a trial, you're watching the changing of the guard at the end of a 100-year empire. The only question left is, once they've disarmed your leaders, who's coming for your gold? Listen, we need to talk about the endgame. While the world is mesmerized by the moral decay in these files, you need to be looking at the mathematics of the 100-year debt cycle. We are at the blow-off top. The timing of the Epstein release isn't a coincidence of justice. It is the final structural component of an engineered collapse. History shows that when a global reserve currency reaches the point of terminal debt, exactly where the US dollar sits in 2026, the ruling class requires a massive diversion to mask the theft of the century. Here is the connection. The $35 trillion debt isn't a mistake, it's a controlled demolition. By releasing these 3 million pages now, the architects are initiating a strategic purge. They are burning the old guard, the politicians and bankers, whose names are littered throughout these manifests, because they have outlived their usefulness. These individuals were the middlemen of the 20th century debt machine. Now, they are being discarded to make room for a new generation of leaders who appear clean and transparent, but whose sole purpose is to onboard you into a digital control grid. The Great Reset requires the total destruction of faith in the legacy system. If you lose faith in the dollar, you might revolt. But if you lose faith in the people behind the dollar, because of these files, you will beg for a new system. This is the controlled collapse playbook. They use the shock of the Epstein files to paralyze the public, while the IMF and BIS quietly finalize the infrastructure for CBDC, central bank digital currencies. It's a classic bait and switch. They give you the truth about the island to distract you from the fact that they are foreclosing on your financial sovereignty. Think about the historical benchmarking. This is the 2026 version of the 1933 gold confiscation. But instead of taking your physical gold, they are taking your exit ramp. By compromising the current leadership, they ensure no one has the moral authority to stop the transition to a system where every transaction is tracked, taxed, and toggled by a central server. You are watching a liquidation of the old guard to pave the way for a technocracy. The files are the distraction, the debt is the weapon, and the new leaders are simply the new wardens. They aren't cleaning the house, they're just moving the furniture into a digital prison. The question is, who's holding the keys to your new cage? Listen closely, because while the world is distracted by the celebrity names on page 442, my team has identified a technical ghost in the metadata of the digital appendix that everyone else missed. This isn't just about who went to the island, it's about a pre-programmed condition-based asset freeze protocol embedded within the upcoming CBDC framework, slated for late 2026. This is the ultimate Cobra effect. The elite didn't just document their sins, they wired the financial system with a dead man's switch. As these high-profile figures begin to resign under the guise of health reasons in the coming weeks, the system is designed to automatically tighten credit requirements and restrict cross-border flows. They aren't panicking, because they've already rotated their wealth into hard custody assets outside the grid. They are waiting for the bank holiday they've engineered. By June 2026, when the liquidity cliff hits, the government won't just freeze the accounts of the people in the files, they will freeze yours under the Emergency Economic Powers Act to investigate the contagion. You are watching the justification for a total financial lockdown. The Epstein files aren't the end of the story, they are the catalyst for the final confiscation. History showed us in Cyprus 2013, once those bank doors close, they never open back up with the same balance. The window to move is closing. Don't be the one left holding the bag when the switch is flipped. Look at the sharks, not the water. While the public is paralyzed by the headlines, the smart money, the very same people named in those 3 million pages, is already executing an exit strategy. They know that in a world of blackmail diplomacy, any asset with a central counterparty is a liability waiting to be seized. The window to insulate yourself is narrowing by the hour. The survival plan isn't about getting rich, it's about sovereignty. First, you must decouple from the kill switch system. This means moving toward hard assets that don't require a banker's permission to exist. Gold and silver aren't just metals, they are private liquidity outside the digital net. Second, look at the on-chain data. We are seeing a massive accumulation of Bitcoin by whale wallets at the exact moment the DOJ unsealed these files. These aren't speculators, they are insiders hedging against the controlled collapse of the dollar. Do not be collateral damage in a war between titans. Diversify your jurisdictional risk. If your residency, your bank, and your assets are all under one legal roof, you are a sitting duck for the Emergency Economic Powers Act. Move to decentralized finance, DeFi, and self-custody. Use cold storage. When the bank holiday hits in June 2026, the only people who will have liquidity are those who stop trusting the institutions being blackmailed by their own history. The system is forfeiting its integrity. Don't let it forfeit your future. The exit ramp is right in front of you, take it before they bolt the door. Listen to me very carefully. What we've just deconstructed isn't ancient history, it's a forensic blueprint for your future. These 3 million pages from the Epstein archive aren't just a ledger of moral rot, they are a formal indictment of the global system you've trusted your life with. If you continue to look away now, you aren't just ignoring a scandal, you are consenting to your own financial liquidation. The survival question: you are standing at a crossroads that only appears once a century. Do you choose the hollow comfort of a collapsing empire, clinging to a system that has already sold you out? Or do you choose the cold, hard reality of freedom, decoupling your wealth and your future from a leadership class that is currently being blackmailed by its own ghost? The intelligence filter: I need to know who is standing with me in the shadows. Look at the comments section below. I want you to mark your position. Type system if you still believe. The current structures can be salvaged from within. Type exit if you've already begun your migration to the life rafts. Your engagement isn't just a metric. It is the signal we use to bypass the algorithms designed to keep this truth in the dark. The privilege of truth, this circle is tightening. The very platforms hosting this data are under immense pressure to execute a total information blackout. This video, and the evidence within it, could vanish before the next market open. If you want to hold the keys to the next phase of this reset, before the door is bolted shut, you need to subscribe and hit that notification bell. This isn't just content. It's a survival frequency for the New Order Reports community. The survivors of 2026 won't be the strongest, they will be the ones who saw the cliff before the fog cleared. Welcome to the resistance. Stay informed. Stay ahead of the new order. The truth will set us free.